Good morning. Today we are going to present our penetration testing executive briefing of the Cozy Croissant Hotel, starting by introducing our team. My name is Qusay Hassan, I'm the captain. We have our senior pen tester, Migna, our pen tester, Muaz, our OSINT specialist, Rashid, and web specialist, Norman, CRCC specialist, Suhan. Moving to the agenda, today we're going to cover the assessment overview, the key strengths, key findings, remediation assessment, compliance and business impact, remediation and strategic recommendation. Starting with the assessment overview. So our engagement objective were assessment of the applications and the commercial of the shelf software, assessment of Active Directory and access control, evaluation of the data storage, encryption, privacy of the data, evaluation of the compliance security best practices and standards, evaluation of the remediation effectiveness based on our previous pen testing. Moving to the scope and assessment with my colleague Mika.
So this is a brief overview of how we conducted the security assessment, what was the methodology followed, and basically the evaluation metrics used. So starting with the scope, the technical scope, we tested two subnets, so the corporate network and the guest network. Overall, we've discovered 20 live hosts in both of these networks. And in addition to this technical scope, we also tested the security posture of the Cozy Croissant in terms of the human aspects of security. So we conducted social engineering on your employees to test the human aspects of security. In terms of methodology, we incorporated best practices, security testing best practices from several standards, most notably the NIST standard, and for web we use the OWASP top 10 and the OWASP checklist. For scoring, to give a better insight into the impact and the likelihood of the risk, we used a common vulnerability scoring system, which is CVSS. CVSS is a score that we assign to a particular vulnerability that we find based on several vectors, such in terms of an offensive aspect, as in how easy it is to exploit it, what is the impact on the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So I would like to commend the Cozy Croissant for the initiative remediation steps that they took after our previous findings. So we found that the network segmentation was bolstered and between the guest and the corporate network, and prior to the access granted, we were unable to scan the corporate network. So that was a good part on the security remediation that you performed from our recommendations from the previous Pentest report. In terms of social engineering as well, we were not successful, so the human aspect of security has significantly improved.
Okay, let's talk about the key finding that we found. So this is actually one of the most important findings, which is the Jellyfin Media Server. So the Jellyfin Media Server basically just plays movies for the guests. The guests can pick any movie that's already available. They can also add any movies that they want. Now, we discovered a vulnerability which can just essentially crash the entire server. A customer can, for example, just pick his own movie. He'll decide on the file path, and if you pick a file path that's just insanely large, then you can just overload the server and crash it. This basically just takes the server down. So this is a very critical finding because it not only affects the reviews of the hotel, but customer satisfaction goes down, revenue might go down, complaints, just tarnishes the reputation of the hotel. Another really dangerous finding we found was the exposed payment API. And API documentation essentially just provide you with instructions on how to use the application. So this was open, it was accessible, and unfortunately, if an adversary just finds it, he'll basically just get an instruction sheet on how he can tamper with the payment system. He can delete, he can add, he can view all the payments. If you can see the payment information of the customer, then this is a PCI violation. So this is a very dangerous finding.
In our previous assessment, we social engineered a Aiden booth, the operations manager, and we were able to get into your payment gateway using those credentials. In this retest, we were able to use the same credentials, which again were very weak. So yeah, if the password is already compromised, you would not want to reuse the credentials. The payment gateway also leaked a bunch of information, but unlike the previous test, there was no information regarding the user that has logged into the payment gateway. So yeah, as part of our pen test, as part of our retest, we do a remediation assessment, and we compare the remediation based on our previous test. So as you can see, the remediations from the previous test have been quite good, but the same number of new findings have been located. Some of the remediations have been partial, like the payment system. It has been more, there is less information available on it, but it still can be accessed using the same credentials.
So I will be talking about compliance and its business impact to the Cozy Croissant. So what does every hotel like the Cozy Croissant want apart from good reviews? Well, they want to earn money and profits. And I can assure to you that this won't be possible if you face a wrath of non-compliance and we do not comply with these standards and regulations. PCI DSS is the payment card industry data security standard, and non-compliance to this can result in fines up to $500,000, which can severely damage the reputation of the Cozy Croissant. In addition to this, non-compliance could lead to increased audit requirements, reputational damage and mistrust, legal consequences due to breaches, and eventually could even lead to shutdown for credit card activity. Now, what I'll recommend the compliance team of the Cozy Croissant is to stay on high alert and also constantly keep communicating with the security team in order to ensure that there are no such breaches, as we earlier observed that the payment card details were exposed, which could eventually even cause shutdown of the Cozy Croissant. So we need to be on high alert for that.
Now let's talk about the safes. So we were provided with a physical safe that we were supposed to get into if we could, and we were actually successful on that. So we found two ways to get into the safe. So the first way, which we looked onto Reddit after a lot of research, we found out that just hitting the safe on the upside and twisting it constantly can actually cause a malfunction, which can just open the safe. And the second way we found out was through the reset button, which was inside, which was actually accessible through the holes at the back of the safe. So you could just take your sunglasses or anything and just keep on poking around it, hit the reset button, and the attacker could just potentially change it completely. Now I'll talk about the remediations and strategic recommendations. So firstly, the password policy change. Depending on how sensitive the information the company holds, the employee should be constantly changing the password every 6 months, 3 months, maybe every month. As much annoying as it sounds, but it is important for a company where you handle sensitive information. Now, there should also be improved segregation from the development and the production. So anything that happens in the development should not reach production, because this could make the attackers potentially do things that they shouldn't be allowed to do. Now, system redundancy, as we talked about the movie service, it was just crashed and it just came completely down. Now, this is bad because there's no backup ready for the movie system to be brought back up again. And lastly, improved data protection and handling of customer data. As mentioned, it is sensitive information, and it should be handled correctly. No passwords and everything should be stored as is. There should be hashes, and it should be handled with care. And we can move on. And thank you. May we have your questions, please?
Yeah, thank you for this work, folks. Do you believe that moving to the cloud will solve all problems?
Can you repeat?
Yeah, do you believe that if we move uh,